Good afternoon, everybody. Just waiting for Sean to come on there. Just invited him. So, Sean, are you about there, mate? You ready to dive on? Going to be a little joint chat with me and Sean. Where are you, mate? Are you in there yet, Sean? Okay. Should be. My friend Sean should be in there now. We're just going to talk about betrayal and treachery, betrayal and treason. And there's a lot of it about at the minute. So we're just waiting for Sean to dive on here. And don't panic.
Hello there.
There we are. How are you, mate? You keeping all right?
I've had a shave today.
No, me too, mate. Brush my hair on my teeth. Well, look, anyway, we'll crack on. We're here to talk about betrayal and treason. And basically what's happened in the last 24, 48 hours, there's been shed loads of betrayal and treason. Basically what's happened is Nigel Farage has just pulled out the knife and stuck it straight into well, not even in the back of Gerard Batten. He seems to have plunged it straight into his chest. What's your take on it, Sean?
I think there's more to it than it sees the eye, me personally. It's like in my eyes, once a banker, always a banker. And a
banker is a...
And a banker will... A banker
will not finish it. A banker is a banker.
A banker is a wanker.
A banker is a banker. Yeah, I mean, I think to me what seems to have happened is Nigel Farage has seen that Gerard's taken the party in a totally different direction. He doesn't understand it. He doesn't agree with it. And instead of just sitting back and minding his own business and saying, well, I've got my little media career now. I can suck up to all my chums in the establishment. I don't really need to be involved in this anymore. He's decided at such a crucial time in our country's history to try and assassinate politically the party leader of the only major political party in the UK that is standing for a full British Brexit. I mean, that's what UKIP is. There's no other party apart from the DUP that have seats in the European Union, that have lords in the House of Lords, that are standing for it. The Tories aren't doing it. They've stabbed us all in the back. Sean just disappeared. Just try and get Sean back in here. Okay, just bear with me. Just try to get Sean back in there. Yeah, but yeah, it's you're back there, mate. Yeah. Yeah, I was just saying it seems like instead of going after the Conservative leader, Nigel Farage has decided to go after the leader of his own party, which seems a bit of a bizarre thing to do. What do you think, Sean?
Well, yeah, I do, because he needs to have a look at the people who's got round himself first. To be honest with you, I've just been reading up on a few things. One of his advisors that was linked, or he was a member of the British National Party?
I think the National Front. I think there was one of Farage's close associates a few years back was in the National Front in the 1970s. Yeah, but of course, the National Front is a real Nazi party. It's not a pretend Nazi party. It really is fascism. I mean, you know, Hope Not Hate and all these people call us fascists, but the reality is the National Front really was a white supremacist, love Hitler party. And there's still remnants of it floating about. But, of course, Farage doesn't really want to mention that too much, that he was associated with someone who was actually a member of a genuine fascist party. And he'd rather go against Tommy or Gerard's associations with Tommy and try and conflate that Tommy's a fascist. And anyone that knows Tommy Robinson knows that he is not a fascist. I mean, it's just probably it's a lie that the left have managed to get into British culture, but it's just not true, as we all know.
Yeah, I know, but it's like I was going to lead on and say that obviously he needs to look at his people that he's got around himself and people that that's working for him. I've just read a report there that he's been rejected from trying to join the Conservative Party.
This is the guy that was in the National Front and then in UKIP and then decided to join the Conservative Party. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, of course, the Conservative Party would reject him because they're now the Conservative and Communist Party, so they wouldn't really want someone that's from that background in.
I don't know if you've just seen the email that's just come through as well from Gerard, obviously in regards to the appointments of Tommy. Obviously, people may have got hold of the wrong end of the stick, which Farage might have as well. Is an advisor. Is in an advisory role.
Exactly. And I mean, the hypocrisy in all this is the Queen of England shook hands with a man who was responsible for the wholesale slaughter of British soldiers, policemen, civilians throughout the United Kingdom. She shook hands with that man. I'm talking about Martin McGuinness. Martin McGuinness was the leader of the IRA. She shook hands with him. Now, we don't see Nigel Farage attacking the Queen and saying she should abdicate because she shook hands with someone who had a terrorist past. And I'm not making a judgment call on that. I'm not even going to speak about the politics of that because that's not what we're here to talk about today. But to me, it seems like of all the huge, horrendous banana skins that you could throw into someone at this crucial time is trying to get a vote of no confidence in Gerard. And I think we need to look at what Gerard's achieved and the direction that Gerard's taken the party in. Gerard's whole theory since he's taken over has been really to give the British working class some hope. Because we know, and we've talked about this before, Sean, on camera, we know that the British Labour Party has absolutely abandoned the British working class. And I'm not talking about the white working class, because I'm not interested in the colour of your skin and never have been. I'm talking about the British working class, whether you're Indian, whether you're African, whether you're West Indian, whether you're white. The British working class has been absolutely abandoned by the Labour Party. And they bought into hardcore Marxism and identity politics. Corbyn is if Corbyn ever became Prime Minister, it'd be a complete disaster for the country. But Gerard, in his wisdom, has started doing what Nigel Farage tried to do and failed, and he started going after the Labour vote. And you know, we would back him on that, right, Sean? I mean, that's really why we're involved with UKIP, because he represents us.
I mean, the way I'm looking at this, well, not just me, the amount of people I've spoke to as well, since January, when obviously Gerard stepped in, and the amount of work that he's done, and he's turned the party around in such a short time, and he's achieved more than what Nigel has done. And I feel
that's right.
And this is me. I feel there is jealousy here now.
There's something not right about it. I mean, there's something not right about the timing of it. I mean, I don't want to be conspiratorial, and I mean, let's give credit where credit's due. Nigel Farage definitely had a huge impact on getting the British people to support the Leave campaign in the referendum. I think he probably did more than Boris and more than any of the other because he's very popular with the working class and popular with the man in the street.
How I would put that there, I wouldn't say Nigel, because yes, he was the leader, but it was the team as a whole. There's no I in team.
Yes, very good.
It's UKIP.
Yeah.
UKIP done it.
Yeah.
And Nigel walked away. Yeah. He's seen pound signs. He walked away and he put the wrong person in. So it was Nigel that turned his back because he thought his work was done. He's turned his back and he's walked away. The work isn't done. The work's far,
no, it's not.
The work's not done.
And that's the thing. And that's what Gerard's been saying since he started, Sean. I mean, you know, obviously we've been very, very fortunate to have a very close working relationship with Gerard. I think me, you, and Dan have got to know Gerard fairly well. And, you know, he is 100% committed to the cause of freeing the United Kingdom from the European Union. You know, all this nonsense that they keep asking about his views on Islam and this, that, and the other. People forget that Gerard was the spokesman on the European Union for the party for many, many years. He's written books on it. So he knows exactly how to get Britain out of the European Union. So why anyone would be launching a challenge or trying to get a challenge launched against him at this crucial time when you've got a man that is an absolute expert on the subject in power in the party? What's the what is the objective there? Is Nigel a poacher who has now become gamekeeper? That's the question. Has he been turned? Is he an enemy of the state, an enemy of the people now instead of a friend of the people?
Well, he's a banker, isn't he?
Hope not.
He's a banker.
He's a banker.
He's a banker. If he's going to put, you know,
you're trying to tell me he's a big posh banker.
Once a banker, always a wanker, and he would always follow the money.
We were trying not to use those words, Sean, but we just do that with slightly. But no, I mean,
I'm allowed my freedom of speech.
Absolutely, Sean. Totally 100%, mate. 100%. So what do we do then? What do we do? I mean, to support Gerard, how can we turn this around? How can we basically...
The way I'm looking at it, honestly, the way I'm looking at it now is not stabbed a friend in his back, because he was a friend. UKIP wouldn't be UKIP without Gerard.
Mm.
Anyway, so he's not just stabbed a friend in the back. He's not turned his back just on the party. But now he's doing that to the 17.4 million people of this country. And I agree. I urge that 17.4 million people of this country, and they know that the only party that are going to give us the right deal, that what we voted for, is Gerard.
Exactly. And that would make you think, is it an establishment plot to get rid of him, so that the only opposition party to the stitch up that's going on at the minute, to the Brexit betrayal that's going on at the minute, the only opposition party will be plunged into chaos because Nigel spat the dummy out and said that Gerard should leave. I mean, that seems to me to be what's happening here. It seems to be something that's deliberately timed to destabilise UKIP and put a banana skin under Gerard's leadership.
Well, of course it is. It's the old political propaganda game. Mm-hmm. And that's what it is. I won't be surprised within the next week or so, it'll be in the mainstream media, plastered everywhere, the good old propaganda coming out. Hence, that's why I predominantly stay away from the mainstream media, because the only real reporters are those that are on the scene with the smartphone, filming it there and then.
Yeah,
and that's
absolutely. And that's one thing that we've got going for us, that we've managed to take back control of the media to a certain extent, even though obviously the likes of Facebook and Twitter are closing us down as often as they can find accounts that they disagree with. But we've got to use these mediums to get the message out. And I think the other thing is, obviously, we can do something about this. We've got a march coming up about Brexit, and there's other marches as well. I mean, before I mention the Brexit march, I want to give a plug for the Northern Ireland Veterans March on the 1st of December in Manchester. That is a huge issue. I have extremely close connections to Northern Ireland, as you all know, and we need to get behind these Northern Ireland veterans that have been dragged through the courts. I was speaking to a man the other day, and he was in correspondence with a 72-year-old veteran who was deaf, who didn't understand really what was happening and what the government were doing, who just received his letters that he was going to be prosecuted. Now, fortunately, we've got some good contacts and we've got some good solicitors in Northern Ireland. So we managed to put this guy in touch with a solicitor in Northern Ireland who will help him. But I mean, this is happening all the time, and there's so many people that we know of and that we know who are getting letters from the police and from the historical inquiries team, or whatever they call it now, saying that they've been investigated, or actually saying that they're going to be prosecuted for historical events that happened in Northern Ireland, which is just such a travesty of justice, when an IRA man that maybe's committed multiple murders, like the reprobate that bombed Hyde Park, is walking free with a letter of comfort telling him he'll never be prosecuted, and veterans who maybe's fired a shot accidentally or in anger or just quite justifiably are now being dragged through the courts. What do you think about that, Sean?
I think it's same again. It's the hypocrisy all over again, isn't it? It's the one rule for one and one for the other again. You can never please both sides. But
no.
If there's a full the Good Friday Agreement for one side, that should be reprimanded on the other side.
And of course, that was the failure in the negotiating teams, that they didn't do that. They didn't get protections for the ex-soldiers. I mean, it's very strange as well, because I haven't heard of one ex-RUC man that's been prosecuted in these cases. It just seems to be British soldiers who were serving their country and doing their best, as we all did back in the day in the Troubles. And you know, they're gunning for us literally. And you know, they used to try and kill us with bullets. Now they're trying to kill us with prison sentences.
There we go again. It's down that political route, isn't it? And obviously, it showed you the actual weakness of our political leaders we've got in power at the moment.
Absolutely, 100%. And this is why keeping this trajectory that Gerard's taking UKIP on is so vitally important. If we don't keep this going, and we don't keep this momentum going, because a lot of people don't really understand what Gerard is doing, and this coming together with Tommy and the football lads and the veterans and all the other patriot groups is absolutely vital for this country. I mean, I think whenever we first spoke about this, Sean, me, you, and Dan back in whenever it was, the summer of last year, and we straight away realised that we had to go down a political route. And we looked at, you know, do we start our own party? Do we stand as independents? Do we look at For Britain? Because that was obviously a fledgling party then. And then Gerard approached us. You know, Gerard actually reached out to the football lads, to the veterans, and he made the initiative. And he basically sold the idea of UKIP to us. He said, look, he says, UKIP's got a lot of problems. He says it's struggling. He says, but if we can get hold of it and we can steer it in the right direction, we can save it. And Gerard has saved UKIP. You know, and I think us joining and the football lads and people from the wider patriot movement joining has definitely given UKIP a new lease of life. But we're literally taking baby steps at the minute, and we need to be starting to take big strides, because we've got to go further, and we've got to go deeper. What do you think, Sean?
Yeah, there's the signals playing up here, but I got most of that. I mean, well, you know yourself, I've met Gerard on numerous occasions now, and I've worked alongside him in a professional capacity. And as for, I'm going to speak out on the veteran side here. I have never ever met someone who's as much adhered and supports the veterans as much as Gerard.
Yeah,
there's issues. There's a lot of issues going on at the moment. Obviously, in what's going on with the leaving the EU and everything else. But speaking to him on many occasions on personal issues for veterans, he is the only man I can honestly say, and I believe in his word and trust him beyond reasonable doubt, that he will do what he says. Yeah,
I agree 100%. And, you know, what you see is what you get with Gerard as well. I mean, he's not the, you know, what is that saying? There's no corners in him. He's a straightforward guy. He is, you know, when he says he's going to do something, he does it. If he tells you something, which is very, let's be honest, that's very unusual in a politician. He's very unassuming. He's very humble. He's very quietly spoken. But boy, does he know what he's talking about, and does he get things done? And I just think it's absolute insanity to even talk about replacing Gerard at the minute. And do you know the other person who I've seen really step up to the mark in the area of veterans issues at the minute is Tommy Robinson. If you look at a journalist and a broadcaster, how many other journalists and broadcasters are doing what Tommy's doing for the veterans? And he's got a huge following of hundreds of thousands of people. He's speaking up for them. He's down with Gus all the time. He's speaking to Norman. He's delivered petitions to Whitehall for serving soldiers. So again, you know, this idea that that Gerard's taking the party apart, you know, the party in the wrong direction, is just such a fallacy. And the other thing is, all Gerard has done is appointed Tommy as an advisor. That's all he's done. Like you said earlier, he hasn't appointed him as deputy leader. He's appointed him as an advisor. And you know how someone can be hounded from office because they appoint someone with a political view that some people don't find palatable. Again, it just shows the sort of road that we're going down in the United Kingdom at the minute. Freedom is definitely on the way out at the minute, and we need to fight for it.
But it's like if you have a concern within your work, within your work office,
I know what you're going to say.
You bring it out. You don't sweep it. You don't sweep it away. It's a concern. It needs to be. It needs to be spoken about, and that is what the political elite are not doing. They're not speaking about it. I just want to take a step. I just want to take a step back there to when you mentioned other reporters. I believe that there is other reporters out there that are willing to do it, but they've got their hands tied from the chiefs of them are preventing them from doing it.
Absolutely. And because they're scared of losing the jobs.
Exactly.
It's as simple as that. They're absolutely terrified of losing the jobs. And what Gerard was bringing Tommy in to do, and is bringing Tommy in to do, is basically prison reform, conditions in prison, probably radicalisation in prison as well, because Tommy's seen that firsthand, and also the issue of child sexual exploitation, which Tommy has a lot of expertise in because of what he's been doing for the past 10 years, because he's been warning people about this for the past 10 years. He's had family members who's been victims of grooming. Well, I'm not going to call them grooming gangs, of Muslim rape gangs. He's had family members who's been victims of Muslim rape gangs. So he's not doing this from a point of view of bigotry. He's doing this from a point of view of being an informed person who knows exactly what he's talking about.
Yeah, he's a concerned person of issues that's been going on, that's been swept underneath the carpet in the past. That's been, it's been, all the doors have been shut on the media by it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the other thing is, no, I'm still there, Sean. Are you still there, mate? You're fading in and out, mate. If I lose you, I'll bring you back in. But I think that the other thing is, the whole of the UKIP leadership are committed to veterans issues as well, because Mike Hookham was with us in York. You remember, Sean? We had Mike with us, and he made a speech and he took a stand with us. And I mean, it would actually be great to see Mike on the 9th of December. It'd be great to see Mike on the platform there as well, taking a stand for Brexit, because he's a great guy and he's the deputy leader of the party. But so it's not that Gerard's in isolation on the issues he's concerned about. The whole party's behind him when he's looking at veterans issues. The whole party supports him.
Yeah. Without a doubt. I mean, when I went down to the ICC for the 25th anniversary. I spoke to 95% of all the main players within UKIP, and the support and everything that comes from UKIP for the veterans is second to none.
I agree. When myself and Simon Bean met the NEC in London, when was it? Anyway, ages ago. But we were in London for a meeting, and we met with the entire NEC of UKIP, and it was so humbling because they stood up and gave us a standing ovation. Now Simon's got an MBE and he did 22 years in the army. I mean, I'm a short timer. I did 7 years in the army, and to get a standing ovation from anybody just because we're taking a stand on veterans issues was extremely humbling, and I thought very, very kind. But that shows you the NEC. There's a lot of attacks on the NEC. At the end of the day, if the NEC turned against Gerard, I would quite happily condemn them for doing that. But the bottom line is, when I met the NEC, they seemed very open, and they seemed to listen to our concerns, and they seemed to share our concerns. And of course, the concerns that we raised are exactly the same concerns that Gerard has, and they're exactly the same concerns that Tommy Robinson has. And I think if Nigel Farage is honest, they're exactly the same concerns that he's got as well, because Nigel will go so far down the road and he'll stop. He won't mention Muslims. He won't mention Islamic extremism. He always kind of backs away and shies away from that. Whether it's because he doesn't have a huge knowledge base on that, which if that's the case, that's fair enough, and he can let other people do that. But he shouldn't criticize and attack people for discussing something that needs to be discussed, because the integration of Muslims into the UK, or the lack of integration, is a very, very big issue, and it's an issue that's going to get worse and worse and worse unless we find a way to integrate people and bring everybody into a nice community of people that are proud to be British, which, let's be honest, we know what it's like in London. We know what it's like in lots of cities up and down the country. There are ghettos. People have separated themselves. They haven't been separated by the state. They've separated themselves. And something needs to be done about that. And that needs to be discussed. And the discussion needs to be had about how we break down the ghettoization that was caused by multiculturalism.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a thing I think every single political party needs to look at, is the integration issue. It's the segregation where the radicals, I see, are feeding off it. You know,
absolutely.
You know, you've got to. I mean, there's always a reason for everything. You know, there's a reason for them coming over here for the better life, for the future of their children.
Yeah.
You know, so they've left the bad side behind, and they're moving over to the good. But if they keep, or if it keeps going the way it is going, in my eyes, they're bringing the bad with them. And,
yes, exactly.
And being isolated and not integrating, this country will end up being like the countries that I've been to over in Africa.
Exactly. You know, I always said, yeah, sure, yeah, 100%.
You know, 100%. Murder rates will go high, kidnappings will go high, rape victims will go high, the streets will end up in slums, and then before you know it, you're going to have a national revolution on your hands.
Exactly. And I mean, even if we look at the knife crime, and this is something that's not discussed, people try and look at all the causes of the knife crime in London. And from what I can gather, and again, I'm not an expert on this, so I'm not gonna try and state facts when I can't back them up. But from what I can gather and what I perceive, a lot of the knife crime seems to be a new wave of Somali or Congolese young men coming into the country who've lived in a very, very brutalized state. That maybe has been involved in militias or involved in the civil wars in those countries, or they've seen that when they were growing up. They come to this country and they do not have the same values that we have. And then the longer established gangs, and this is let's be honest, this is black on black crime. So maybe it's the West Indian gangs or the African gangs that have been here longer. What they're now involved in, this is why the knife crime seems to be getting worse, and this is how I perceive it. These new gangs that are coming in are not scared to take out a machete and chop you until you're dead. And what's happening now, there's an arms race where the more established gangs are having to fight fire with fire, and they're fighting back. Now, I could be wrong in that, but just through speaking to some people from the communities, that's the perception that I have, and also just doing research. What do you think about that? I mean, that's got to be a situation as well, where if we're just taking people without vetting them, without really knowing who's coming in, this is what's causing the problems. And again, this needs to be addressed. And no political parties talking about it except UKIP.
I mean, you can look at the place. I mean, I can only go from experience on this one, from places of Iraq, Afghanistan, certain areas over in Africa. All the way they do their discipline is not through the policing system. They have the head of the town. You know, he will carry out that discipline. And if, like over in, you know, one of the things that they did over in Afghanistan, if a certain clan went and killed another person from another village, the retribution of that is, well, he's killed one. We're going to now go over and kill two. and then it's vice versa. Well, they've killed 2, now we're going to go and kill 4. And it just goes on and on and on and on. I see it with the mass influx we've had over these recent years. These are young, fighting age men that have grown up this way. It's all they know.
Exactly. And let's be honest. Let's call a spade a spade. And again, this isn't popular to say this, but the reality is most of these people. Well, let's just look at the stats. 48% of people that have come into this country since 2010 have been from a Muslim background. So the reality is there is a problem within the Islamic religion. There's a problem in Islamic states. If you look at the Middle East, and if you look at countries like Saudi Arabia should be one of the best countries in the world. Iraq should be. Syria should be. You stick a shovel in the ground in Saudi Arabia and you strike oil. So they should be a super forward-thinking company. And what do? They execute homosexuals. They execute apostates. They flog people for committing adultery and drinking. They execute people that commit adultery. Women are covered from head to toe. And is that what we really want to import into our country? Do we really want to turn Bradford into the Hindu Kush? Do we want to turn Bradford into an area of Kashmir? Do we really want to do that? And that's the debate that it seems Nigel is now scared to have, unfortunately. And all mainstream politicians are terrified of mentioning the I word. Let's not talk about Islam. Let's not talk about Muslim immigration. They're petrified of it. But we need to talk about it because it's an issue.
Yeah, we do. Because at the end of the day, we're not tarring everyone with the same brush.
No,
it's the majority that's there, and if we can't get in, so they can help themselves and get rid of these people, it's just going to grow and feed itself.
Yeah, exactly. And the other problem is, and John Winder just came on there and very correctly said, it's the literal interpretation of the Quran. If you're literally interpreting that book like ISIS did, okay, you might have some Muslims saying, well, that's not true Islam. Well, good. If you don't think it's true Islam, prove that. But the problem is ISIS thought it was true Islam, and they had the text in that book and in the Hadith to back up what they were saying, and in the life of Muhammad. So we've got to be very, very aware that we are importing big problems for our children, for our grandchildren, and that is not saying attack Muslims or anything stupid like that. What we're saying is we've got to have a discussion, like Lord Pearson said. We've got again, the only peer or the only person in the Houses of Parliament, in both houses, who will discuss Islam. And every time he does it, he's berated. He is absolutely vilified for discussing it. And all Lord Pearson wants to do is talk about Islam. That's his mantra. Let's talk about Islam. Yeah. And we need to talk about it in a political sense.
Is just put an absolutely cracking comment in here. Gerard Batten brought UKIP back from the brink. If he wouldn't, basically, if Farage would have been still there, we wouldn't be in this position. Now I don't even think there would be a UKIP if Farage would have been still in the seat.
No, I think you're probably right, because again, he would have been trying to find a reason for UKIP to exist for the last 2 years. Of course, what Gerard was saying right the way from the beginning, he was saying we're going to get Brexit in name only. We said this. In fact, we said this in the march on the 23rd of June. We said that Theresa May was going to betray Brexit. We knew it was going to happen. Now we've got the evidence that it's actually happening. But I made a prediction that in 10 years' time we'd have a UKIP Prime Minister. Now, here's the thing: if the Labour Party and the Conservative Party keep going like they're going, and Gerard stays in position, in 10 months' time, we might have a UKIP Prime Minister. That's how bad these other parties are. And what a time for Nigel Farage to stick the knife in. It's very, very suspicious. There's something very badly wrong about it. And there seems to be, this seems to be the season of, not the season of goodwill, but the season of treason. There's plenty of it about at the minute.
Yeah, I think it's like you, like me, and like, you know, hundreds of thousands of others. It seems like somebody somewhere along the line is pulling someone's string.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you know, there seems to be a major conspiracy here. I mean, even the way that this deal, whenever Jacob Rees-Mogg stood outside Parliament and challenged Theresa May, you'd have thought he's an intelligent man. You would have thought he would have made sure he had enough people behind him to back him. So I wondered, did a lot of people say, yes, Jacob, you get yourself out there and we'll back you. And then they stuck the knife in Jacob Rees-Mogg to stop his challenge to this dreadful deal. And now Nigel Farage is doing exactly the same thing within UKIP. And, you know, if Brexit is stolen, that leaves us in a very, very dangerous situation politically, because people will realise that the political process is not fit for purpose. And that's a very, very dangerous place to be, because where do they go then? If politics doesn't work, you know, let's be honest, this is really how the troubles in Northern Ireland started, and one of the reasons for them, because of voting rights and people on the Catholic side.
I think the 17.4
discriminated against.
The 17.4 million people that have obviously voted for us to leave the EU.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it. They are the people that have seen the way it's been going for the past 20 years, 20 plus years.
Exactly.
You know, there's another report I read. They done a statistic of how much since we've joined the EU have put new laws into place, and it was something like 6,000 new laws per week have been put into place that we must have.
It's incredible, isn't it? I mean, you know, and the reality is this document that's come out is basically saying that we've got to abide by a lot of these laws, particularly the GDPR law, which is a terrible, terrible law, which is going to be used to close down internet freedom, and is going to be used to clamp down on people contacting their support base. And of course, you know, it's like anything with these laws. When these laws are passed, people say, oh, you don't have to worry about it. It's not going to affect your freedom. But it is affecting freedom, the same as the hate speech laws. And obviously, that's another thing that Gerard's very strong on, is repealing hate speech laws. Because the laws on hate crimes in this country are meaning that people are being arrested every day just for posting things on Facebook and Twitter. I mean, it's insane. We think about that fella up in Scotland that was prosecuted for making his girlfriend's pug do a Nazi salute. Now, he was a lefty, and he was doing it as a parody and as a joke. But of course, the legal system, if it ever had a sense of humour, has certainly lost it. And, you know, policemen are spending a lot of time. I think there's 900 policemen in the Metropolitan Police that are tasked with investigating hate crime. Now let's put that in context.
Can I just jump in there? I'm just having a little giggle to myself here. Now, can you imagine that within the forces, and you've got that good old forces military banter? And if that system was used in there, you wouldn't have a military force.
No. And that's probably why we don't. That's probably why it's collapsing, you know.
Well,
because, you know, that's one of the things that kept our morale up. I mean, I'm sure we were all the same. You'd have a blazing row. You'd go out for a few beers with someone. You'd have a blazing row with each other. You'd knock 10 bells out of each other, punching the head off each other. And then 5 minutes later, you'd be laughing about it and go for another beer. And that's, you know, that was the military mentality, wasn't it? That's what we did. And that's why we've all got bruises and scars all over our faces. But, that's what the army's meant to be like.
Yeah, but it's the same, isn't it? I mean, you get up in the morning, you walk down the corridor and you say, good morning, knobhead.
Exactly. You know, that's right. And this is, you know, this is part of what's wrong in the UK. And again, getting back to UKIP. UKIP's the only antidote to that at the minute politically. There's other antidotes, like, you know, changing the culture and changing the way people think. But at the minute, UKIP's the only answer to this problem that we're facing. So look, I mean, I think we've got to get behind this march. We've already talked about the march on the 1st of December in Manchester. We've got to get the guys behind that march in Manchester, because that's vitally important for Northern Ireland veterans, because that is a big issue. And Rob Gray's done a hell of a lot of work on that, and that needs to be supported. But we also need to get tens of thousands of people out on the 9th of December. Now, I know that's going to be very, very difficult. And someone just said afternoon, knobheads, afternoon, whoever that is. But we need to get tens of thousands of people to that march on the 9th of December, because that is the, I mean, people are attacking Gerard for teaming up with Tommy. Tommy's the only guy that's called a Brexit march to oppose Theresa May's crazy deal. He's the only guy that's done it. Nobody else has had the backbone to put his name to something. You don't see Farage calling, because I tell you why. I tell you why Farage hasn't called a march, because he doesn't think he can get the numbers.
I was just about to bring that in. Kim, if you think back now, what was it, 4 or 5 weeks ago? He was actually stating, "I'm going back out on the trial. I'm gonna make sure all this is going to happen."
Yeah.
Where's he been?
Yeah. Where is he? Where is he? He's filled a few town halls in the shires with kippers, but I mean, where's he been? And he had some big names there as well, and of course he was packing them in. But I mean, when the rubber hits the road, we need to get tens of thousands of people out on the 9th of December. And I wasn't going to do any demonstrations because I've got lots of issues at home. I've got lots of financial problems in terms of how much I've spent on doing this in the past 18 months. So I wasn't going to do any demonstrations between now and Christmas. But when Tommy called the demo for Brexit, I thought, do you know something? I've got to do. I can't not do this. I can't not protest about this horrendous deal that Theresa May's done, this horrendous betrayal. So I think we've got to encourage people between now and then. And again, it'll be another show of support for Gerard, because Gerard's going to be on the platform and Lord Pearson's going to be on the platform, and hopefully there'll be other UKIP leaders there as well. I don't know who's going to be there, but it'd be great to see Mike Hookham and some of the other guys there.
Well, Gus, who's been outside all the court, he'll be on the platform.
Mm-hmm. So to me, it's an absolute must that we support it in huge numbers and actually get there and start making a difference.
I hope the 17.44 million people go to London, support the economy, go down there, have a bit of Christmas shopping, and have a fantastic demo.
Yes, exactly. I mean, that's it. I mean, going to London at Christmas time, it's a great time to go to London because it's buzzing. I mean, it's a great weekend out. If your wife's not into this, take your wife down, let her go shopping in London, stay overnight in London, and make a real weekend of it, and just have a good time. And it's going to be a great demo anyway. It's going to be the one that we did on the 23rd of June. The atmosphere there was absolutely, I don't know if you remember, Sean, the atmosphere was absolutely electric. When we walked up the road and they were playing Rule Britannia and we all started singing it and all the Union Jacks waving, it was great. And the other thing I would say is, if you're going on the 9th of December, obviously it's a Sunday, bring loads and loads and loads and loads of massive Union Jacks. And let's show the people that don't like the Union Jack that we're proud of it, and it's not racist to be proud of it. We shouldn't even have to say that, but we're proud of that flag, and we want to fly that flag, and we want to wave that flag, and we want to feel like we're 10 feet tall walking with that lovely Union flag that we've got.
My flag's up. It's been up from day one, and 6 foot by 10 foot, and I love it.
Brilliant. And that's what we've got to do, because we've got to show people what we're about. The other thing I'm thinking, in terms of supporting Gerard, for any UKIPers and any people who are involved in UKIP, start getting in touch with the head office. Start getting in touch with the head office and saying, listen, guys, we need to be supporting, to tell the head office they need to be supporting Gerard Batten, that the NEC needs to support Gerard Batten, that this attempted coup and attempted assassination needs to stop. Because the reality is, I was very angry when I did a live feed this morning. I said, if they get rid of Gerard, we should all burn our membership cards. But I still stand over that, because if they get rid of Gerard, they're getting rid of UKIP. If Gerard goes, UKIP goes. That's how serious this is. If you think you can play Russian roulette with the political party that basically got us Brexit, well, I think that's a very, very silly game to play.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Really, nothing more to say. Really, I just want to give a big plug out, because obviously I was down seeing Gus down Audley Court. Please, this man is.
He's a hero.
He is a hero, and the people that are down there that are around him, you know, helping him do this stag on now is absolutely fantastic. And I urge everyone, even if you can just go down and spare an hour, go down and speak to the guy, speak to the lads of that stern.
Yeah,
there's plenty of food, there's plenty of brew. You know, if you want to brew, there's a proper field kitchen set up. If you want to stay over the night,
amazing.
There's tents. It's a proper tented camp round the back. You know,
totally.
So I urge, if you do go down, please do. Don't worry about food. There's plenty of food there. But if anybody would like to go down with some bottled water, just to keep the water supply up, or some wood to keep the fires going through the night to keep the lads warm, please bring it down.
It's an amazing thing that Gus has done, and I mean, there's a man that fought in the Falklands War, fought in Northern Ireland, served his country. You know, I'm sure Gus said when they were needing them, not just feeding them. You know, he was in it at the sharp end. I mean, the Falklands War was a horrendous war. He was there, suffering from PTSD, and he has literally put his life on the line for this cause. Literally, he's put his money where his mouth is. You can't say any more than that. I mean, he's a total hero. But also, what about
there's also two other heroes there. Two other heroes that are down there that have been side by side with Gus from day one, and that's Norman and John. Norman and John, you know what I mean.
Absolute legends.
Absolutely legends and gentlemen you will ever meet.
I know, and totally genuine people as well. I mean, you know, you can be sure. I tell you what. You can be sure Norman McGuigan wouldn't stick a knife in you. He wouldn't put the knife in the back. You know, Norman's an absolute gent and very straight talking guy, very humble man. And again, Norman's paying a big price for this. Believe you me, Norman's paying a price. You know, huge price. John is paying a price for this, and John again is a very unassuming man. He never wants to be on camera. He never wants to be seen. But a big shout out to John and Norman. And the charity that Norman's planning on setting up, I don't know if it's set up yet, but he's wanting to set up a charity called Minds at War, which I think is a great name for a charity. And he's really wanting to do what Combat Stress and these other groups. And I'm not going to get into the politics. Obviously, I don't know enough about it to do that. But Norman wants to do what he sees them failing to do, right? So he wants to get a grip of this situation, and I think Norman's the man to do it. And Gus and John, you know. Those guys have put a serious shift in. In fact, I think, Norman's a good man. Norman's a good man, and 100% needs our support and needs our backing.
Yeah. Before we go and knock it on the head, what I'd like to say, if all those who would like to get down to London that can't financially or don't have the transportation, those that can, please reach out. Let's get as many people down there as we possibly can.
Yeah. Well, I've got 3 people come from Belfast, so I've got true patriots coming across with me from Northern Ireland, so that's going to be good. But I mean, obviously, I can't charter a plane for people, but no, if you're trying to get there and you can't get there, what you should do is literally get on Facebook and message someone saying, "Listen, I need a lift." It's, you know, there's loads of cars going down there with a couple of people in it. Let's get 5 people in every car instead of having 2 people in a car. You know, I mean, I know yourself and Dan have many times travelled down, just you 2 guys, haven't you, Sean?
Yeah.
You know, if there's anyone, I don't know how you're getting down this time, but if there's anyone wanting a lift, get in touch with these guys and dive in, and let's get these cars filled, and let's get some minibuses filled, and let's get a real strategy for making this march the biggest march of the year. And I'm not in any way disparaging any of the other marches we've done, because they've all been great, but I think this one's the most important. Sean, would you agree?
It's of this year, most definitely, because if we don't get what we've all voted for, I honestly don't know which way it's going to go. I really don't.
Well, what I want to say as well, because we were talking earlier about, you know, if the democratic choice that the people took in 2016 is betrayed, that a lot of people are going to lose faith in the political system. I would do the opposite. I'm stubborn like that. If someone goes against me, I dig their heels in, and, you know, I'm not easily bullied. So what I would do if I was if they do sell us out, I'll be doubling down on the political process, and I'll be saying, I'm going to get even more involved in politics, and I'm going to agitate more and more politically, and I'm going to encourage people. You know, one of the big problems we've got, there's still millions of people in this country who could vote and don't vote.
Exactly.
If we all voted, if everybody that agrees with us voted UKIP, that's why I get annoyed with these people that talk about storming Parliament and civil war and all this crap. All you got to do is vote. If you vote in the right numbers, they can't do a thing about it. Brexit's proved that. Now, they might betray Brexit, but if we do it in a parliamentary election, we could kick the crap out of the Labour and the Conservative parties. It's like Robin Horsfall said when on the 23rd, you hit them in the ballot box.
Yeah.
Let's start hitting them in the ballot box. Let's start really creaming these people.
You've got to hit them in the ballot box. You have to do.
It's the only place you can do it.
And
it's the only place you can do it. Hit them low and hard.
If you can't get to, because of your disability or any other way to get, you know, you can get to the ballot box, you know, you can get your family member to do it on your behalf.
Well, you got a postal. I mean, postal vote.
Postal
ballot. You know, there's no excuse for anybody not voting. If you're eligible to vote, you should be registered. If for whatever reason you can't get registered, let's start showing people. You know, give them the links on Facebook so they can get registered and start voting. Because if we vote in enough numbers, we can turn this country around. It's the only way we can turn this country around. Anything else, as you know, Sean, and I know from previous experiences, any other way to try to change things just fills a whole lot of graveyards, body bags, and prisons.
Yeah, it's like the general election. It's not a tactical vote. Tactical votes are for local.
Yes.
A tactical vote is for a local election only.
Yeah.
A general election, you must vote for those that you want in power. It's as simple as that.
Exactly. And that's why I think if it becomes very obvious that the referendum result has been betrayed, which it has been, we know it has been, right? We've seen the documents, we know that what we voted for is not what we're getting. Both parties, Labour and Conservatives, should be booted from power, and the only people that should be sitting on those benches are people that supported the Leave campaign, in my opinion. Right now, obviously, if you're a Remainer, you're going to think the opposite. You're going to think, I want a Remain MP in my area. That's absolutely fine. You go out and vote for your Remain MP. But when people are voting, they need to drill down and find out what is the intention of your sitting candidate. Because there are people in the Labour Party who are Leavers. Kate Hoey. There are people in the Conservative Party who are committed to Brexit, like Jacob Rees-Mogg. And those guys, obviously, it's worth keeping them in the Parliament for obvious reasons. But let's go after these quislings, these traitors to the country who are actually sitting in areas that voted Leave by a massive margin. They're sitting there as Remain MPs, smug, undermining the will of the people who voted for them in the last election. Because both parties, remember this, both parties stood on manifestos that they were going to leave the European Union properly. Both Labour and Conservatives. So they both lied. Theresa the Appeaser's lied, but so's Corbyn's lot as well. So you can't trust any of them. And again, this is why it's so crazy what Farage is doing.
But also as well, and they won't admit it, neither will the mainstream media, the Labour and Conservative, have actually used UKIP policies and put their own little twist in it.
Of course, they always do. UKIP's always been a trailblazing party, always. You know. So anyway, Nigel Farage, you know, bless him, he's done a great job getting us Brexit, and we're not taking away from that. And you know, we're not going to be all conspiratorial. He's made a complete cock up on this one. He needs to wind his neck in, and UKIP need to just flip and ignore him and say, I tell you what, Nigel, sling your hook. You're not the leader anymore. You're an MEP, and you cannot dictate who is the leader of UKIP, especially when Gerard was democratically elected to lead the party. So this can't happen. We can't have this betrayal of a leader of UKIP who is doing a fantastic job, and we've got to fight against this with every sinew of our being.
Right, I think we'll leave that there, Richard.
I think so, mate. I think so. Well, Sean, that was great. So listen, I'll see you on the 9th then, mate.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to promise to be there, but I'm going to do my best to be there. Yeah. Just with you know, other commitments and Christmas and all that coming up.
So I've got to get Dan to put you in the boot of the car.
It wouldn't be the first time.
I know.
Right then.
All right, mate. See you soon.
Love you and leave you.
God bless you. Bye-bye.
To
Bye-bye.
everyone that's,